Good morning, everybody. It is Kelly here, and I have my special guest with me today. What's your name?
Dex.
That's my little guy, Dex. And we are going to do Coffee and Christ together today. So I wrote a blog post called Quit Touching the Stove. Dex, do we touch the stove?
No,
Why don't we touch a stove?
it's hot.
Yeah, and we'll get burned, right? And it hurts.
Yeah.
So the verse that I want to discuss today is Proverbs 3:5-6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path." So what the blog post talked about was we know, like, in real everyday life, we don't touch a stove, right? It's hot. We as parents teach our kids, you don't touch a stove. It's hot. But in other situations in life, sometimes we have these reasons why we continue to touch the proverbial stove, whether it be something that we're doing that we shouldn't be, relationships that we're in, friendships, dating relationships, marriages, things that are toxic, just any number of things that choices we're making. And I discussed kind of 3 reasons why we're making them and how we can stop. So the first one is sometimes we convince ourselves that the stove isn't really that hot, right? Like, the burner's been off, it's probably cooled off, it's probably okay, it's probably not going to lead to that much trouble. And we know in our hearts that's a lie. We start taking steps in the wrong direction, and those your faces are great, Dex. Those little steps lead to bigger problems. So that's the first thing, is we need to stop justifying things in our minds that we know are not good for us. The second thing is we think that we know more about the stove than God does. And that's like a child telling a parent, that he knows more about the stove than I do. And we know that kids are still learning and growing, and they think they might see the whole picture, but they don't. We do as parents, right? We've been through it, we know. And God is our Heavenly Father, and he sees what the danger lies ahead for us, and he tries to warn us and stop us. And I said in the blog that it's like we're standing in front of a tree and we can see the tree, but he can see the entire forest. But we think that tree is our forest, and we just don't have the full view. So we need to trust that our ways are not higher than God's, and even though we might think something is okay, if it's hot and we've been warned not to touch it, we need to not touch it. And the third thing, and the most common thing, I think, is that the pain of touching the stove is better than whatever pain we're trying to avoid. So we might be feeling depressed, and so we drink, right? Because touching the stove is a metaphor for drinking in this case, or drugs, or any number of things that we do to avoid the other feelings that we don't want to feel. Or maybe we're in a relationship and we know that this relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship or whatever the case may be, it's draining, it's toxic, it's causing us to do things that we shouldn't be doing, or it's just sucking the life out of us because these people are taking advantage of us in some way. So we need to stop touching the stove by staying in these relationships because we're trying to avoid the pain and the rejection of getting out of them. And then, another example is our lifestyle, right? We want to keep up with the Joneses. We want to feel like we are as good as our Facebook paints us to be. And so we buy things that we shouldn't buy, or we spend our time and our money and our energy on things that make us look good, as opposed to things that please the Lord, because we'd rather appear as though we are perfect and we have it all together, and we have all the things that money in this world can provide, instead of facing the facts that maybe we don't have it all together. We don't have the things that, the means to afford things that other people can, and that's okay. I mean, it's not why we're here. So anyway, wanted to wrap it up with the fact that we all screw up. We all fall into each one of these categories probably more than once in our lives, and there's forgiveness there. And I think that's the hope in this, is that we are forgiven, and we continue to be forgiven. There's enough mercy and grace in the power and cross of Christ that we can go to him and we can start new and we can move forward. So I hope that this episode of Coffee and Christ was both entertaining and also encouraging. We love you guys, and we will see you next time. Say bye, Dex.
Bye.